Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fourth and a Mile podcast. I'm your host, Caden, and here we'll be discussing the latest sports news, our predictions, and just pretty much anything sports related. So I'll have my other co hosts introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Jared.
Hi, I'm Austin.
I am Deitch.
All right, let's get started. Recent notable scores. The Eagles won 25-22 against the Giants. What could this mean for the NFC East?
I mean, this is pretty much showing that the Eagles are kind of fading away as not a good team. I mean, they almost lost to the Giants, a team that has been struggling offensively and defensively the entire season. And
Yes.
It's just showing that they kind of lost everything that they had last year.
I do agree that the Eagles are not as good of a team this year, but I also think part of it is due to the fact that 7 out of 11 of their defensive starters are not here. That is pretty much their entire defense. They only have one Pro Bowler on their defense that is still consistently playing on a weekly basis, and I feel like this could have something to do with their drought this year. I also feel like the Carson Wentz ACL injury could also he's not fully healed. He has said that, and I feel like the Eagles next year will be back to what they used to be.
Yeah. Even though a win's a win.
Personally, I believe that Carson Wentz, he's definitely having an off year. I think that maybe it was a fluke last year, but you never know.
Well, you're a Cowboys fan, so that kind of does influence this. But, I mean, a win's a win, but when you are winning, just barely edging out a team like the Giants, who has struggled all year and who has a very low record, it kind of shows what the performance you're putting up in a game.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, next score. The Browns won 35-20 against the Bengals. Now, I think this has an impact because it shows what's going on with the Browns. The Browns started off the season kind of shaky. They won a game, but they still played like they did last year. They did not play up to where they should have been playing. But once Greg Williams was brought in and Hugh Jackson was pushed out, the Browns are now 2-1 under their brand new head coach. And the Bengals, who have not won since October, are now dying out very quickly.
Mm-hmm. I really think this boils down to the coaching change. When the Browns play with Hugh Jackson, you can tell that Baker Mayfield, wasn't really making the right decisions. Might have been some really bad play call going on, and Baker wasn't playing the best football.
Yeah.
And right when we switched with Greg Williams and Freddie Kitchens, the offense just kind of clicked and everything just started working. The Browns were able to score on pretty much every single drive. Like, they were able to move the ball down the field.
Yeah, I feel like Hugh Jackson was interfering a bit into that.
This win was huge for the Browns. It showed that Baker Mayfield had confidence, a lot of which I think is because of the new head coach. But also, since they started, since Greg Williams became head coach, they've started using Nick Chubb a lot more instead of doing this running back by committee thing. And it's made all the difference in the world. Chubb has gone off since then.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like these wins I feel like they say something more about Hugh Jackson than anything else. I feel like these wins show that Hugh Jackson was the reason that the team was so bad. The Browns are, I'm not going to say they're the best team, but they are a young team with actual talent, and I feel like Hugh Jackson was holding them back from this, and I think these wins prove that.
Yeah, it's like when
If you give the Browns 3 years, they will be an elite level team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Let them develop these young players. See, they only have 2 players on their entire roster who are over 30 years old. That's insane for an NFL team.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Jared Goff got Sean McVay as a coach. He had a pretty bad year, and then right when Sean McVay came in, he became a Pro Bowler.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really shows you how much coaching means in the NFL and how these can definitely win you games.
I mean, Hugh Jackson even stated himself at one point that he felt he should have not handed over the reins of the offense. But the problem is he was interfering so much in this offensive play calling that he eventually just messed with the players' rhythm. And I mean, I was at the Falcons game and I saw just constant movement, just constant throwing off the Falcons. Like, I mean, Nick Chubb broke the franchise record, and he's a rookie. He ran all over the place. The passing was consistent. Everything's just been going right for their offense. Their defense is still struggling a bit, but over time, that will fix itself.
I agree.
I think the Browns. I personally believe the Browns' defense will be the best in the NFL in 1 or 2 seasons. They're so young. They're already one of the best defenses in the NFL when it comes to turnovers. They will be an elite defense in a year or 2.
Yeah, seeing as though Ward and Myles Garrett are already some of the league leaders, and they're within 2 years of starting their career. All right, next score. Buccaneers win 27-9 over the 49ers. I personally think this just shows how badly the 49ers are doing compared to last year's ending. Everyone thought this year, after the 5-win streak wonder that Jimmy Garoppolo put on, that the 49ers were going to come in here and just storm the league. It was going to be a 49ers Super Bowl, or they're going to make the playoffs, or they're going to win some sort of conference division, whatever, title. But
this is the exact opposite of what's happening in Cleveland. The quarterback is making all the difference here in San Francisco, whereas in Cleveland, it was the coaching.
Yeah.
They cannot win with Mullins and, Beathard, who's their quarterback before Mullins and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that, personally, I like Nick Mullins. I think that if you develop him, he has a great play style. I think he can become a good quarterback. Not a great quarterback, but a good quarterback. But when your main guy, who you're paying a crap ton of money, Jimmy Garoppolo, is hurt, then sorry.
Yeah, well, he's young still, and he just got in the league. And, well, seeing as though he was doing so well, we would have thought that he would have had a good year. But he got injured so fast, you can't tell whether or not he's going to have a good career now. He
I also
might have
think
just
this
screwed up.
49ers here, I think this shows that they really are a one-man team when Garoppolo gets back. Because last year with Garoppolo, they went 5-0. But without Garoppolo, they are not nearly as close to arguably the worst team in the NFL right now.
Well,
I feel like Garoppolo is the energizer that fuels their offense. I feel like
he's
without
definitely
Garoppolo,
the difference maker when it comes to that. You can tell the difference. The 49ers aren't able to score with him. They just can't move the ball down the field. And pretty much his game, I really don't think it taught us much new stuff. We know that the 49ers aren't good after the Jimmy Garoppolo injury. And the Buccaneers are one of the weird teams in the NFL where they play really well.
And then they are garbage.
Horrible.
Yeah, I think the Buccaneers, they have decent talent. They have a great receiving core, but they need to figure out their quarterback situation, because it seems like just about every 2 weeks they switch Jameis Winston and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I feel like
they're doing the quarterback by committee bullshit. You saw how that worked for Ohio State 2 years ago. I know this is college, but same thing applies when they went between Cardale Jones and JT Barrett.
Yeah.
Well, originally that was because of an injury, but eventually it wasn't.
2 quarterbacks, it messes up the rhythm. One quarterback gets going, you bring in the other one. It's a terrible system. They need to decide. Personally, I think they should go with Jameis Winston just because of the age factor.
Well, the only problem with him is the fact that he is young and he is stupid. He's like Johnny Manziel. He's got the talent, but the problem is he gets in trouble a lot. And not only that,
he's a loose cannon.
Yes, sure. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, he may not be the most consistent man, but he's a veteran, and if he's given the right opportunities, he leads the team. So they have to choose, do we take a huge chance with Winston and get ourselves in trouble, or do we take a chance with Fitzpatrick and see whether or not he can actually put out the performance?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
All right, so next score we have, the Seahawks beat the Panthers 30-27. And this is kind of odd because the Panthers were playing extremely good football until the Steelers game rolls around, where they just get blown out.
Yeah, they're on a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah, nothing was working for the Panthers. The offense wasn't working. The defense wasn't, doing what it should be. And it just kind of shows that I don't know what happened with the Panthers. They just dropped right off.
Yeah, well,
go ahead. Second. It was like a second they just dropped off. People were saying, they may win the NFC South, if they keep playing the way they're playing. But as of now, they just seem horrible.
Yeah, well, the problem is the Panthers, I guess, have just gone on this downhill spiral. And we've seen this before in some years, but they still managed to pull themselves out of it. But the problem is recently they haven't worked together well. I mean, last week, that one could kind of be placed on Coach Rivera, seeing as though he made the gamble to go for the last minute score instead of tying it. That's why he's known as Riverboat Ron. He gambles a lot. But obviously, it didn't pay off well because here we are. They're on a 3-game losing streak, and they are losing their chances of becoming a wild card contender.
I also feel like too much of this offense is being put on Christian McCaffrey. I personally have McCaffrey on my fantasy team, and he got me 46.7 points, 125 yards rushing, and 112 yards receiving.
Well, that could be applied technically, but I mean, the offense functions around the idea that they need a fast runner in. They either run Cam Newton or have Cam Newton toss it really short to one of their receivers or McCaffrey.
McCaffrey right now is their offense. He leads the league, not the league. He leads the team in both rushing and receiving yards. But I think that the Panthers receivers, especially DJ Moore, deserve a shout out because he has been picking it up lately in the past couple games, even though they haven't really done great. DJ Moore, a rookie, he's been playing really well. He's been living up to the expectations. Same goes for Funches. He's been playing okay.
I mean, another problem is Greg Olsen, who's been known to be their veteran, their rock. He can do anything. He was injured again this year, and he's just kind of disappeared into their tight end core. He's no longer the absolute dynamic tight end he used to be. He used to be contending for the best tight end right beside Gronk. But now he's just gone. He's disappeared into the crowd.
And, he's starting to get older. Now, Jared, I ask you this. Do you think that Greg Olsen can make a comeback in his career?
Well, he is, as you already stated, pretty old, and he is very inconsistent with injuries. He's constantly missing games, and unfortunately, I think he's just going to sort of drop off. Well, and this game not only shows the flaws in the Panthers right now, it shows that the Seahawks, though they may have had a shaky start, are still contending for the wild card.
Yeah. I feel like this whole Greg Olsen situation, although it's very different, kind of reminds me of a Peyton Manning-like situation where Peyton Manning was very excellent in his prime, arguably the best quarterback of all time. But after there's only so many injuries a person can sustain at that level of playing. And I feel like the tide's kind of turning here where Greg Olsen carried the team at one point, but now the team kind of has to carry Greg Olsen.
Yeah.
I feel like Greg Olsen may kind of slow them down a bit. I feel like they might need to replace him sometime in the next 2 to 3 years.
Well,
this year's tight end draft class is very, very deep. I think the Panthers need to take a tight end. Noah Fant from Iowa, he's really good. Yeah. I forget his name, the guy from Oklahoma. They have a really good tight end. I think that the Panthers need to take a tight end as well as the Cowboys, who their tight ends have been pretty terrible this year, with the loss of Jason Witten, obviously. And that kind of brings us to our next game. We have the Cowboys 13-10 win over the Saints.
Well, this game really shows that the Cowboys are trying to pull their heads out of their asses and put together a last-minute comeback to the playoffs. I mean, after Alex Smith got hurt severely, the Redskins are kind of left with very little options, while the Cowboys are starting to make a comeback and show that they are still a decent team. And the Saints, if the fact that they beat the Saints, who are on such a roll and are a dominant force almost every year, shows that the Cowboys are trying to compete now. They are legitimately competing.
The Cowboys, if they play like they did against the Saints, then I don't think that there's any teams other than maybe the Rams and any teams in the NFC that can beat them if they play that well. Their defense was on the ball the entire game.
Yeah, that's why it was 13-10.
Their defense was amazing. Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, they're two young linebackers. They played it looked like Sean Lee was out there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
They,
I see this as a very humbling moment for the Saints. The Saints, the huge 10-game winning streak, were just unstoppable. The offense and defense. And, I believe that they were thinking of themselves very high. They thought, this is a Cowboys team that kind of struggled in the beginning of the season. They're pulling it together. We can come in and we win. And they just played really off the Saints. Like, if you watch past games, especially against the Eagles, how just responsive they were on offense. They were able to score, move down the field, and they just weren't able to do this. Like, in the first half, Drew Brees had like 30 yards in that first half, or
Mhm.
a very low number.
At the beginning of the game, it was the first time in Drew Brees' career where he started with an 0 for 5 passing. And I feel like the Cowboys defense did a very good job of finding the
Weaknesses.
the weaknesses and using their own strengths. Alvin Kamara to only 36 yards carrying. That to me is more impressive than the Drew Brees thing because Alvin Kamara is arguably the best running back in the NFL right now, on top of being one
And
of the fastest and one of the youngest.
and Ingram had only 27. If you can hold one of the NFL's best two-headed monsters in the backfield to a combined 60 yards, then that's a good thing. The
Mhm.
Cowboys' the run defense is so young, and they are very dynamic and very hard to stop.
And I feel like the thing that says the most is that the receiver with the most receiving yards last night was Michael Thomas, but he only had 40 yards. I feel
Yeah.
like that says something. Michael Thomas, you normally expect him to get around 100, if not over 100, especially on this Cowboys defense. I feel like this Cowboys defense kind of shocked everybody here, and I feel like maybe it's because they were desperate, but I feel like maybe this momentum may keep up, and I feel like they could make a decent playoff run.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to give props to their secondary. I mean, Thomas has been red hot. Hill has been. Everybody on that Saints receiving core has been catching touchdowns, catching for tons of yards, and for them to kind of just show up and play at the level that they did against a Hall of Fame quarterback, it was just insane. And they really did surprise me. I thought that the Saints offense just would have overpowered the Cowboys defense. I really felt that they've been so red hot. I don't really see them stopping.
The Cowboys' defense, here's a fun fact. They have only one player on their entire defense. He's not even a starter, who has ever played a snap for another NFL team. Every single player on the Cowboys was either drafted by them or an undrafted free agent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as Deitch brought up earlier, Alvin Kamara is perhaps the most dynamic player in the league, other than maybe McCaffrey and Hunt, we will get to Hunt later in recent news with him. But I mean, the Cowboys just completely shut down perhaps the most powerful team in the whole entire league. I mean, there was no output from this team. It was great.
I
I
had
would also
two main
argue.
takeaways from this game. One was Dak was playing at an elite level. He played some of the best football I've ever seen him play in his career. Over the last 4 games, he has been throwing balls at just perfectly placed, dropping dimes the whole time. And my other takeaway is that NFL referees don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm a Cowboys fan as much as it pains me to say this. The refs threw away that game. I mean, that pass interference in the end zone at the end that allowed the Cowboys to go into victory formation. Personally, I do believe that was pass interference, but it was pretty minor. I don't think that they should have called pass interference. I think it should have only been holding. And that hit to the head on Kamara, that was just a terrible missed call by that official.
All right. Anyone else need to wrap it up?
Tell me how you guys feel about this real quick, just before we move on to NBA. I would say that Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram could possibly end up being, if Mark Ingram stays on that team and Alvin Kamara continues at this superstar level, I feel like they could possibly be in the talk for the best running back duo of all time if they continue with this in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Like last season, they were unstoppable.
Kamara was the breakout star.
Yeah, that was the the entire huge story with the Saints last year was this Kamara kid. He's doing really good, and then Ingram's playing at the level he's been playing, and it was just all good. And I hope to see them progress the way they've been doing in the next couple seasons.
All right, now to the NBA. Raptors, the recent scores. The Raptors won 131 to 128 over the Warriors. Now, for me, this shows that two things. The Raptors are finally performing the way they should be with their star talent, Leonard. And that the Warriors are kind of in disarray compared to the past, not only because of the fight, but because some of their players are more or less trying to highlight themselves rather than work as a team.
Yeah, I feel like this season is a little bit different for Kevin Durant. Obviously, the fight between Kevin Durant and Draymond at the beginning. So I feel like Kevin Durant kind of has a chip on his shoulder to prove that he really can be the leader of this team. Because I feel like right now most people think that Stephen Curry is the force to keep this team going. But 51 points against one of the best, if not the best defense in the league right now. On top of 11 rebounds and 7 assists. Oh, I'm sorry. 11 rebounds, actually, not 7 assists. I feel like he is trying to prove something, and maybe this could have something to do with some sort of free agency this offseason. I don't feel like Kevin Durant will stay with the Warriors, and I feel like he has to play at his best in in order to get the deal that he really wants, that max deal.
Well, the problem is the Durant, as Green may have stated, I hate Green. I think he's a dirty player, but he's kind of right about this. Durant is more or less focusing on himself, getting the absolute best deal, all the money he wants. I mean, he could essentially just lead any team, besides maybe if he went to LA and fought with LeBron over that instead. But, I mean, the idea is the Warriors just aren't performing right now. I mean, they lost to the Nuggets recently, and they just lost to the Raptors. And, I mean, recently, any East team they've played,
listen, Kevin Durant, I don't think he's a leader. Curry's been out for the past couple of weeks. The Warriors haven't been performing since then. Durant can't lead his own team. Like even with the Thunder when he had success in the postseason, that was let's be honest. Durant was the best player, but that was Russell Westbrook's team. Westbrook led that team. Westbrook not carried that team because they had Durant, but like Westbrook was the lifeblood of that team.
Yeah, and it shows because you look at Durant in some of his past finals and Western Conference finals. I mean, he is a really good player. There's no debating that. He might be Hall of Fame material, but he has not been able to perform without several stars surrounding him. You look at the finals, maybe, what was it, 6 years ago? It was the Thunder versus the Heat. And the Heat just outperformed them. And the Thunder had Harden and Westbrook, but they still couldn't pull it off. And Durant was still on that team. Yeah. And then you look at 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where they completely choked to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals with just Westbrook and Durant on the team. And he's just not the leader that any team needs. He's a great player, but there still needs to be someone else controlling that offense.
Exactly. I feel like Durant, as great of a player as he is not vocal enough in order to be a leader. I feel like any team he goes on, I feel like he won't be the leader of that team. Even with the Draymond fight, he didn't really defend himself in the media. He kind of just
shrugged
off all the questions, and even after the fight, he just reports say that he just sat in the locker room instead of going to try and as Stephen Curry would try to solve the issue like an actual team leader would, but Kevin Durant just sulked in the locker room and did not try to solve the issue, which I feel like a team leader should do.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. All right, so I guess we can move on to the Mavericks beating the Rockets 128-108, and the Rockets just have not been playing at a very high level. I mean, they lost to the Cavs, couple days ago, and the Cavs have just been cold as ice, just unable to win any games, and they beat the Rockets, which the Rockets are considered one of the best teams in the West. And for
Last
them to
year.
go
Yeah.
out and lose to these kind of minor teams is kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, the Mavericks are an average team. They're ranked 8th out of 15, which is just like the exact middle. But the Rockets are 9-11, and with the star power in James Harden and CP3, there really just hasn't been anything going for them. Last year, they were like one of the most talked about teams, besides, of course, the Warriors, since they're the Warriors. But now this year, they just haven't shown up on the court. They're not working anymore. They're not playing the way they need to. And I'm not really focused on basketball, but I can see that the Rockets are just going downhill really quickly.
I feel like the Mavericks also have improved a bit this season. Luka Doncic, he's playing at an all-star level this year, and I feel like if
Rookie
he
of the year for sure.
if he continues this, he will be an all-star this year. Also on top of that, DeAndre Jordan, he may be a bit older. He's 30 years old, which isn't that old, but he also is having a decent season. I feel like he is still kind of the core of that team. I feel like he brings that team together as the true veteran on that team. But I feel like in the next couple of years, we could see Luka take over that role with how dominant.
Luka Doncic scored 20 points against the Rockets. That, like, for a rookie to go to Houston and do that to James Harden and Chris Paul and company, that is crazy. Also, off the bench, Devin Harris drops 20. Also dropped 20. So
yeah, I feel like Luka isn't just a rookie. He's a 19-year-old rookie. Most rookies that come in the league, sure, maybe around 20, 22, between 20 and 22 years old. But being 19 years old, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the age that LeBron came into this league?
Well, he came out of high school, so yeah, it would have been 18 or 19.
Yeah, and I mean, Luka, he comes from a different culture too. He came from Real Madrid, which is as you guys probably know, it's an academy where he goes and it's a boarding school. He goes and all he does is study and play sports and work out. And it's a training academy for all these sports. Obviously, Real Madrid is best known for soccer, but they have basketball there too. And Luka Doncic is a great product of that school, and I think he will go down as one of the greats in both Real Madrid and possibly NBA history.
Well, if he continues this level of play, he definitely will. All right, and lastly, Lakers win 104-96 over the Pacers. Now, for me, I look at this as a symbol for both LeBron and the Pacers as a team. Last year in the playoffs, the Cavaliers, led by mostly LeBron, struggled mightily against the Pacers. They could barely pull out wins. And now that LeBron is in LA and surrounded by a young core that he can easily influence, he's actually doing okay. I mean, everyone expected them finals or Western Conference finals, but he's kind of average right now. But still, the Pacers are a very good team led by very young players, and they still managed to pull out the win with a group of very young guys and, of course, LeBron leading the team.
I mean, obviously, Oladipo is one of the elite shooting guards in this league, and for LeBron's young team to just shut him and the rest of the Pacers, just shut him down, they looked like a real basketball team, despite how young they are.
Now, sticking with the Lakers, kind of on a different subject though, I feel like LeBron James and Tyson Chandler are really the only two players on that team that are completely safe from being traded. I feel like everyone else on this team can be traded. Maybe Kyle Kuzma is somewhere in that safe area, but I feel like everyone else on that team is kind of expendable in order to try to get another all-star for LeBron James. I can see a Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram trade and maybe a second-round pick for Bradley Beal. I feel like that could be somewhere in the near future in order to complement.
I have to say, Dice, I completely disagree with you. Tyson Chandler is completely expendable. He doesn't do that much for the team. In 26 minutes, he scored only 3 points. Granted, he did have 9 rebounds, but I think that Brandon Ingram is completely untouchable. He is a very young player who has yet to reach his full potential. I think that give it a year or so, he will be an all-star. Now, Kyle Kuzma, maybe not expendable. I personally hate Lonzo Ball. Yeah, he got you 8 rebounds, but in 34 minutes, he only got you 2 points against the Pacers. That is not good. Those are terrible numbers. I think he should be traded.
Yeah, well, and plus, Lonzo Ball not only is putting out only average numbers, he has perhaps the most annoying and arrogant figure in sports attached to him, his father. And the man, not only does Lonzo Ball just average, he's just an average player.
I wouldn't say
his father might end up
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, his father might end up screwing over any chances other than at the Lakers. I mean, the LeBron, he already had a bit of a conflict with LeVar at one point, but I guess he's just putting up with them now. But you see that now that Lonzo's past his rookie season and he's not doing what he did, LeVar's kind of just faded. He's just shut up. I can't, for any small market team, he would be a risky move to take because, you don't want to polarize the fan base with perhaps the most annoying man in sports.
But when you're in one of the largest, I forgot the word. What was the word you used?
Sports market.
Yeah, sports market. I completely blanked there. When you're in one of the largest sports markets in the world, that you cannot afford that with all the media in LA. You cannot afford to have, a risky person to your public appearance, because that's what matters most, other than
Well, let's think about this here. LeBron is 33 years old, not getting any younger. He is at the end of his prime, and I feel like the Lakers understand that. Magic Johnson, obviously a very talented player. I feel like Magic Johnson understands what it's like to near the end of your prime. So I feel like he understands that if they want to chase a championship with LeBron James, that they have to do it now, within the next 3 years. And I feel like their whole goal right now, I feel like they're not really thinking about the future. I feel like they just want to win with LeBron. And I feel like that could lead them to trade some of their younger players with high potential who aren't fully developed yet, in order to get an already talented player who can contribute to that team immediately.
Yeah. I'm looking at a correlation between the Warriors and the Lakers right now. I know Kevin Durant may want to be a star of the team, but he would probably take another ring over being the captain of the team. Because if they bring him in at the end of the season, it will be a really good team. Now they may struggle to compete with the Warriors, but there would still be an excellent chance for them to actually compete and win a championship.
A LeBron KD duo could beat any team in the league easily. You could surround them with 3 Lonzo Balls on the floor, and they would still beat the Warriors.
Well,
the Warriors would be Curry, Clay, Boogie, if he's back to his normal self with the Achilles injury, and Draymond, who's Draymond, and that doesn't really count because he sucks. But but I mean, LeBron and KD are the 2 most dominant, change the game players in the NBA. Now you could argue that players like Kawhi and Giannis are up there, but like the small forward position, in my opinion, is one of the most competitive positions in the league.
Influential.
And to get 2 of them, possibly, in KD and LeBron, then you would be virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, well,
small forward is extremely dynamic too. You can get a shooter, they can rebound, they got the height to rebound. I mean, they can get assists. So having 2 all-stars and keeping some of that young talent for the Lakers, I think it has to be essential for them in order to win playoff games. Getting that kind of even more that great all-star piece with LeBron would just tremendously help the team.
All right, and
All right.
I mean, you look at the problem for the Lakers if they were to wait till next year with Durant, LeBron, he's fading out of his prime. He knows this too. That's why he went to LA so he can prepare for his career after his NBA career. But if he can put up the numbers that he did with the Cavs and that he's continuing to do, if they were to get another All-Star, there would be the great possibility to win the championship. All right, moving on. Trade news and other news.
All right.
Cowboys, of course, are on the winning streak.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier, and this pretty much means I believe the Cowboys are going to win the NFC East. They've just been playing dominant on another level. Dak, Zeke, the defense, all have just been playing extremely well. You know, we touched on these other points earlier, but it's just showing that they're kind of becoming a competitor in the league.
And it all comes down. It was since they got Amari Cooper that they've been starting to pick it up. Now, granted, they did give up a first rounder for him, which might come back to bite them later. But you have a dominant receiver who is one of the best route runners in the league. He made Marshawn fall a couple times yesterday, Lattimore. And I personally believe that Amari Cooper is the spark that ignited this Cowboys train, and that has the train has not been stopped yet. And I don't think that there's anyone on their schedule who can stop them. Maybe the Colts, possibly the Eagles, but I don't think that they will be stopped unless something bad happens.
Yeah.
I feel like with this win, Jason Garrett has also been taken off the hot seat. I feel like, sure, their past couple wins might have also contributed to that, but winning over the possible Super Bowl, the Saints clearly a possible Super Bowl contender. Winning over them, I feel like takes Jason Garrett off the hot seat
For now.
and
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Even if they don't make a deep playoff run, I still feel like he still will have his job by come around next season.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a bit more.
No,
But, I mean,
listen, I am a Cowboys fan, and personally, I hate Jason Garrett with a passion. His play calling sucks. He's just not a good coach. I think that they should get rid of him, but if you do make a deep playoff run, I don't see how you can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see you were talking about this earlier, how the first round pick, they traded away the first round pick for Amari Cooper. I see that as worth it because though the first round pick is important, if they play well, the first round picks may not make the difference. I mean, sure, the pick could be dynamic, but there's also the risk that they don't pan out. I mean, Amari Cooper's already there. Amari Cooper's already making sure that Jerry Jones might see another Super Bowl ring in his lifetime. But, I mean, Amari Cooper's one of the best receivers in the league. It's quite worth it for just a first-round pick.
Only 24. You know who else is 24? Calvin Ridley. So you're basically, like, people are saying, like, oh, he's been in the league for 3 years. He must be getting pretty old. I mean, people are jumping on the Calvin Ridley bandwagon, but Cooper's only, like, 6 months older than him. Cooper is young, and if they bring him back, granted, it will be a big contract. I believe that Cooper does deserve a big contract. But if they do bring him back this offseason, which I think they can, and I think they will, then it will be worth it.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the next bit. This will be a bit of shorter one because it's recent and not as big of an impact. Kyle Korver was traded the other day away from the Cavs. And I think based on the way that the Cavs received the payment for him, I think it shows that they are in a rebuilding phase, like most other Cleveland teams. They got 2 second-round picks from the Jazz. And, I mean, they traded away one of their more veteran guys for some uncertainties. And this is what most Cleveland sports ends up being, is the idea that we're in a rebuilding phase. We got to build up draft picks. We got to get ready for the future. And, I mean, you look at the Cavs team, there are very few veterans. There's, I mean, Rodney Hood and Kevin Love. And that's about it. The rest of it's just
Hood's
really
only, like,
young guys.
old.
Huh?
Hood's a young guy. He's only, I think, 25 or 26.
Well, that still shows the fact that he's one of the older players compared to the rest of the roster. Just how young.
There's Love, who's injured, and then Channing Frye, basically.
Yeah.
I feel like this could spark when Kevin Love's healthy again. I feel like we could see this trend continue where I feel like we could possibly see Kevin Love get traded. I feel like, though, if they trade Kevin Love, I don't
won't be
think
for
they
much.
would want a player. I feel like they would prefer draft picks over a player unless the player is someone who can, a young player who they feel like they can develop. I feel like Kevin Love maybe is worth a first round.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think that Kevin Love is a leader. Like, look at his time with the Timberwolves. They sucked. He was the number one guy there, and frankly, they sucked. And now look at before he got injured with the Cavs, they sucked. Kevin Love cannot be a leader. Personally, I think that he needs to go somewhere where he's comfortable with the people and he can be a number 2, possibly even number 3 guy. I think that Kevin Love would fit in very nicely with the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know about you guys, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree really like a lot with that. I mean, Love, he is a very streaky and injury prone guy, but he and LeBron got along well. And as we mentioned earlier, the Lakers are sending young guys out to different teams to try and build that championship team. Now, Love may not be the dynamic force he used to be, but he's still a good player. And the Lakers would probably either take young players and trade them to the Cavs, or they would probably be willing to expend some draft picks to get a good player.
He's still a 15, 20 points per game guy, like 8 or 9 rebounds. He's still a, borderline double-double player. He can be the all-star. I don't think he can be the all-star LeBron needs, but he can be a all-star. He's a very valuable piece. Trade someone like, one of your younger guys like Josh Hart, maybe even Kyle Kuzma to the Cavs. I would personally love that trade. Maybe throw in a second rounder or a first rounder, but that probably won't be as good. Granted, because you have LeBron James on your team, but first round is first rounder.
Yeah, I feel like Kevin Love, as talented of a player as he is, I feel like if the Cavs really truly do want to rebuild, he's a little bit too old for them to keep him on the roster. I feel like he also doesn't fit in very well with the additions of Colin Sexton. I feel like Kevin Love may try to take the captain spot, like the number 1 spot on that team, and I feel like Colin Sexton will want that spot, and I don't feel like that will play out well.
Colin Sexton reminds me a lot of Russell Westbrook in his personality. He's a very, very competitive guy. He's like a all or nothing guy, go big or go home. I think that Sexton will be the number 1 guy in a year or two. I think that right now he needs to kind of find his land legs in this ocean that is the NBA, because it's a lot different than playing college basketball in the SEC. I think that he should be, the guy in Cleveland in a year or two. But right now, I feel like he needs to kind of take the backseat a little bit, let the veterans kind of handle it.
The few veterans left
aren't in a position to do very well this year.
Yeah, now let's move on to our next topic here. I believe it was today, if not today, yesterday.
No, it took place in February.
There was a video that surfaced of Kareem Hunt hitting and kicking a woman in a hotel lobby in Cleveland from February. I feel like now this brings me to ask, was this the true Kareem Hunt that we saw, or did alcohol or something like that have something to do with this?
Well, there's a few things that we can go over here. Kareem Hunt, for all we know, could have been photoshopped. I mean, there is the chance that it was authenticated, but even alcohol isn't an excuse for what he did. This is looking like Ray Rice, like a young star, looks like he has a great career, and then his career is shattered by complete stupidity.
Yeah, all I gotta say is, like, come on, man. Like, come on. Like, he's one of the rising stars of the NFL. He put crazy numbers up last season. The Chiefs have kind of found the Chiefs' offense has just been clicking with Hunt, Tyreek Hill, and then he's going to go ahead and do this. And this is putting the Chiefs in a little
jeopardy.
bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Kareem has played very well. Even Mahomes, it'll hurt Mahomes and pretty much the entire offense. It's going to kind of cut back a little bit. They're going to have to pass a lot more, and it's just kind of going to leave a hole because he most likely is going to get suspended. The NFL cannot handle such of like a crisis as this one because people are going to be outraged. You know, it doesn't matter what happened.
People are going to be outraged no matter what the NFL decides to do. It's just the society we live in today. Now,
I mean, there have been reports that the NFL knew about this and did nothing. Now, if this is true, it is more likely than not because the NFL is looking at a bit of a problem here. Not only are their rates kind of dropping because of kneeling, but because the sport of football is competing with everything. Basketball's kind of taking center stage. But, I mean, Kareem Hunt was a dynamic superstar that brought in tons of viewers. Everyone was amazed with him. And if the Chiefs were doing poorly, they lost their Kansas City fan base. And the idea is the NFL makes more money if superstars are playing. And with Hunt suspended, they are looking at income loss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, wait. I have two questions about this. Like, two questions to ask you guys. Now, how do you think that you think that the Chiefs can still win the AFC West with the loss of Kareem Hunt for, I'm gonna say 6 games because that's 6 games no pay. That's the standard. What's it called? Suspension for an NFL player who is accused of assault.
Well, the real question is here: will the NFL act on it? Because apparently the NFL already knew about this, and if they didn't act on it the first time, what will make them act on it this time?
This is the public opinion because the public knows about it now.
Yeah.
But like my question, like the Chargers have been red hot all season. They've just been kind of in the shadows. No one's talking about them because they're like behind the Chiefs. But like if the Chargers play the Chiefs, I think twice actually going forward, and the Chargers defense is great. Obviously Gordon's doubtful, but if Gordon is back, I think the Chargers can legitimately beat the Chiefs and push the Chiefs back into the wild card spot.
Well, the problem is for the Chiefs is that losing Kareem Hunt not only puts them in the bad position, they also lose public opinion. Now, a lot of fans like rooting for underdog teams or watching them. And now that Kareem Hunt is possibly out, they are looking at a very difficult race. And not only that, hold on. But the Chiefs are... all right. The Chiefs are... hold on 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Come back to me.
I think the big reason why the NFL kind of hid this video is because the Chiefs coming in this season were a super interesting team. You had them trading Alex Smith, having a young quarterback starting, and then when they started to play, they were just explosive. Probably one of the most exciting teams to watch. You have Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, and they were just unstoppable. And this kind of made them want to hide it even more because this would be hurting one of their biggest moneymakers, as they've just been red hot, unstoppable, and just super fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right.
My other question that I have to ask is, with all of this stuff going around, the NFL knew about it. Is Roger Goodell fit to be a commissioner?
I mean, if he doesn't suspend Hunt, then he might be basically mobbed out of the NFL at this point because a lot of people hate him. I mean, I know every commissioner in every sport's kind of hated, but that's because they suspend players, make tough calls, and they're constantly siding against some fan base.
Yeah, I feel like this Kareem Hunt issue could severely affect the Super Bowl predictions here. But with the loss of Kareem Hunt, obviously the Chiefs may not get home field advantage like most people thought they would. And I feel like the Patriots, as weird as it sounds, are happy. Not happy, but obviously they're not happy about what happened to this woman. But
they're relieved that they don't have to go up against Kareem.
yeah, that's what I was looking for. Without Kareem Hunt, I feel like the energy in their offense will just slowly just begin to go down. There's only so much you can do. It would be like the Saints losing Alvin Kamara. Their offense just wouldn't function.
Well, I recovered my thought from earlier. The only thing about this is that Kareem Hunt may be suspended next year rather than before the end of this year. Because we've looked at some of the trials before, like Tom Brady appealing Deflategate and everything. I mean,
he's appealing like 50 times.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the trials and they may take a while. Hunt may end up playing in the playoffs. Now, if this happens, the public opinion still will be a bit against the Chiefs, but their momentum may not be so dead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we should just head kind of straight into our main topic because we've been dabbling with these smaller topics. But who will win the NFC East? And I think what we should do, we should kind of go like team by team. I guess we can start with the Chiefs.
Not the Chiefs.
Not the Chiefs. The Giants. Got them mixed up, but yeah, the Giants. What are your thoughts on the Giants? And do you think there's any way that they could kind of late season kind of pull their team together?
No way in hell. The Giants have been a mess for years, and Eli Manning's getting older. He doesn't really have the star power. Now, Saquon Barkley, yes, he is a good player, but he hasn't really been putting up the numbers to carry this team. The Giants, there is no way they're making it to the playoffs. No. Their defense isn't too good either. I mean, seeing as though they've lost so many games this year, I don't think there's any way, especially with the Cowboys making their comeback, that they ever make the playoffs within the next 2 years. I mean, much less this year.
Now, I seriously, I love Saquon Barkley as a player. He is going to be the best running back in the league in a couple of years. Mark my words right now. You heard it here first, folks. But he is not ready to lead an NFL team yet. He's too young. He's too immature. Not immature. He's too inexperienced to lead an NFL team. Odell, he's kind of a jackass. He's not going to really – I don't think he could really – unless he cleans up his act big time, he can't really lead the team. So now next year, assuming Eli Manning is not with the team, you're kind of left in a awkward position where you don't really have a set leader on the offense or on the entire team. Your secondary is really good. If you're like the Giants secondary is pretty good. Their safeties are good. But their defense needs definitely to be upgraded this offseason. But I seriously think that the quarterback position should be their first priority. I mean, there really aren't that many great quarterbacks in free agency. Maybe you use one of your high draft picks to take, Shea Patterson,
Haskins.
Haskins. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback, but I really do like him.
Yeah, like Justin Herbert too. He's up there.
Ellinger from Texas.
Yeah, I mean, just the Giants have been a mess for several years. Ever since they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots, they've just kind of faded off. And I mean, in recent years, after they hired McAdoo, they just collapsed and they're just shattered pieces all over the ground.
Now they have with Pat Shurmur. I hate Shurmur. He was the coach of the Browns. What was that? That would have been 6 or 7 years ago. And he was a terrible coach. Obviously not Hugh Jackson terrible. But I mean, I just did not like him one bit. And I was really surprised when the Giants went out and got him. But I feel like Pat Shurmur knows what he's doing enough to turn this team around for the next few years, but I don't see him as the long-term coach if they want to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right. Now moving on to the Redskins, another team that has kind of been going downhill, but more recently this season. I mean, they were hot. They were red hot. There's no denying that compared to some of their past years. And then Alex Smith got hurt with that horrible injury, and they've just kind of died. There's no spark left. They've lost 2 games in a row. And I mean, Alex Smith was already old, but he was doing well, and now they're risking possibly him being done forever and just not having a quarterback to fill that hole left in the offense. I mean, they're already looking at losing to the Cowboys for the spot, and now they're just falling apart completely.
Now, the way I see it, losing Alex Smith puts the Redskins in a terrible position because you're to the point in the where you already have a pretty good record, so you don't really have a chance of being that high draft pick, getting that quarterback.
Exactly.
Back for the rest of the season, so they're kind of in this limbo where they're guaranteed, like a 10 to 15 pick, just not a great pick, in the teens and stuff. And like, if I'm the Redskins right now, I'm worried because you need to find a quarterback fast. Smith is 34 years old. He is, at the end of it, he's past his prime already, and he with his knee injury, I don't know if he'll ever play at the level they played at in the beginning of the season again.
Yeah, also, I feel like Redskins fans have hope because of Colt McCoy, but just let this sink in. Colt McCoy on his career is 7-19, 29 touchdowns, and 26 interceptions. He almost has as many interceptions as touchdowns, and I feel like that really says something about how bad this NFL player is.
Not only that, he had concussion history too, so concussions will forever affect you. His career is probably coming to an end soon too because he's not really a great player and he's aging. Yeah, and of course, he's had the concussion trouble. So
he's not like Nick Foles coming off the bench. He's not. I mean, I wouldn't say he's a horrible player, but he's definitely not good. He's not a good replacement and a guy who can expect that, you let him go. Like Nick Foles. Nick Foles came out and he won when they needed him. And the Cowboys, the Redskins, need these wins. And I'm not sure Colt McCoy is a guy to get these crucial wins in the late season. Exactly. I just don't think he's a guy.
What happens if McCoy plays poorly or if McCoy goes down? Who do they turn to? Mark Sanchez? He's like, I'm pretty sure, isn't he in his mid-30s now?
He should be.
I feel like there really is no hope for this Redskins organization. They have a good defense. But other than that, I feel like they don't really have any hope, especially if their backup quarterback is now 32 years old.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's ask a question related to this. Did Alex Smith suffer a career-ending injury, or is he just going to come back and finish off his career?
See, I don't see this as a career-ending injury, but I see this as a bad injury. Like Austin said, he's not going to play on the same level as he did early in the season. Early in the season, he was pretty much leading the offense. The offense looked pretty good in some games, looked kind of bad in other games, but pretty much him going down is going to hurt his career by a ton.
Yeah, well,
I can see him coming back, but I don't see him being like the starter on a team. Maybe if he's like maybe the starter for like the Bills, someone who doesn't have a quarterback. Like obviously they have Josh Allen now, but like that's just an example. But I can see him being like kind of a Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like they signed him if they need someone to fill in for like a couple games. Obviously Fitzpatrick did something with that, but
temporarily.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going against you guys. I honestly think this might be his career-ending injury. He's always been in there as a good quarterback, but he disappears and then he reappears. He led the 49ers to a Super Bowl, got hurt, and then Kaepernick came in and stole the show. And then he left. Then he went to KC, and he did good there, but he just couldn't get them past that threshold. And now he's playing for the Redskins, but he's 34. This man's 34. That some people retire before that. Some people retire in their early 30s. He just suffered one of the most horrific injuries ever seen, and he's going to take several months to recover. He's going to have to go through therapy. He's going to have to restart his career. And I don't think this late of a stage in his career, he can do this before he just can't endure this anymore. He's just too old to really make the impact.
The Redskins, they're kind of in like I said, they're in a weird position. I think that they're, done for the season, obviously. Next year, though, get a quarterback, get anyone, like literally anyone.
Tyrod Taylor.
Mark Sanchez. Tyrod Taylor, yeah, that'd be a great option for them. I think he would fit in great with their offense. But next year, I think you also get Darius Geis back, who like obviously everyone's kind of forgotten about him because of the injury, kind of like Dalvin Cook last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're getting Geis back. He was projected to be one of the better runners in the league. I think he still can be one of the better runners in the league, and having him would help your offense out so much. Like Peter's kind of getting old. Like, not kind of, definitely getting old. He's like 34 years old also. And that's really old for a running back.
I also feel like, though, throughout Alex Smith's career, I feel like Alex Smith has always been overrated.
Overshadowed, too.
I feel like when he was on the 49ers, he had a very good offense. Michael Crabtree, Pierre Garcon, Carlos Hyde.
Frank Gore.
And I feel like when he was on the Chiefs, he also had that level of offense where he had Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Sammy Watkins, all those players. But now that he's on the Redskins they don't have as talented of a roster.
You got Peterson, Paul Richardson, and like Jordan Reed.
Exactly, but he doesn't have those high caliber players that you would think of as, they can really be a real threat. I feel like now that Alex Smith isn't on the best team, he's not doing very well because I feel like he isn't as good as most people say. I feel like he's just kind of been lucky with the offenses he's gotten into with the amount of talent they have in them, but now he's surrounded by less talent, so I feel like he is just an average quarterback now compared to the above average that we saw in Kansas City.
Well, I mean, all right, quick wrap up here. Alex Smith, I feel like he's always kind of been overshadowed. He's performed well in his career in the past, but he's never been at the level of Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, all these guys. And he's just kind of been like forgotten about. And now that he's finally kind of emerged in the spotlight, he instantly collapses. And now the Redskins are suffering. Now let's move on to the Eagles. Could they win the NFC East?
No,
I definitely agree. No, it's a straight up no. They've just been off. They can't win any games. They are a far shadow from the Super Bowl team last year. They're completely different. You know, you have an Eagles team that struggles to score compared to a team last year that was just phenomenal on both sides of the ball.
The Eagles are also, like we said earlier, they are more banged up than I would say almost any team in the National Football League this year. Their offensive line has changed every week. They have not had 1 week where their offensive line has stayed the same. And Carson Wentz still recovering from that ACL injury. That could be their scoring problem. But also, like we said earlier, 7 out of 11 of their defensive starters are gone. 7 out of 11. They have only one Pro Bowler left on their defense. And most of the people on their defense right now are from the practice squad, including on their offense, Josh Adams, who is their starting running back, who was on the practice squad. A practice squad running back being immediately brought up to be their starter doesn't work out.
I mean, the Eagles they haven't been able to put up the performance they did last year. Last year, they showed they were contenders because even when Nick Foles, who's had a up and down history, came in, they were still able to beat one of the top caliber teams in NFL history, the Patriots. Exactly. I mean, and now they're looking at a team that really is kind of back in that limbo spot where you're 8-8 and you can't put up performance.
You know what it all comes down to? They lost, people are saying they didn't lose many core players, but I disagree. They lost Trey Burton obviously they have Zach Ertz, but Trey Burton was still a core part of their offense last year. Same with LeGarrette Blount, and same with Ajayi, who's injured. And it's definitely, they've suffered a lot of major hits this year. I think that, I don't know if this year's a fluke for Carson Wentz or if last year was a fluke, but there's definitely something fluky going on with him, and you got to get that all cleared out before you can really move on with your team.
Yeah, personally, I mean, the Eagles have always been sort of this 8-8 team that's kind of in the middle of the pack, but last year they showed they could be out. But I mean, I just think based on their performance last year and how it compares to their recent years and this year. I think they're just a one and done team.
I disagree with that. I feel like when Carson Wentz is healthy, as we saw last year, if Carson Wentz wouldn't have gotten hurt, he would have won the MVP. Before he got hurt, he was the leading MVP candidate by far. And I feel like when Wentz recovers fully next year and Ajayi is back and their line is healthy and their defense is healthy, and with the addition of maybe some O linemen and maybe some linebackers in this draft or this free agency, I feel like we could possibly see the Eagles back to where they were.
But could they beat a team like the Rams or the Chiefs? Because if they want to win another Super Bowl, they have to go past these teams.
If everyone is healthy and Carson Wentz is playing at his MVP caliber level, yes, I feel like they can.
The Eagles are. I don't think I disagree with you, Deitch. I seriously disagree with you, Deitch. The Eagles are not equipped to take down one of the elite teams, one of the giants of the NFL this year. Personally, I don't think they could even beat the Patriots this year. Like, obviously, they schooled them last year with their backup, but I don't think that they're equipped to beat the Patriots. I don't even think they're equipped. I think that the Browns could beat them right now if they played.
I mean, the Patriots, they may have taken a back seat in the league right now. I mean, you don't see them being reported on as much, but I don't think that the Eagles could take on the Patriots right now. Caden?
Yeah, I mean, just what I said earlier, the Eagles are just not explosive enough this season, and that's how they have to improve on the in the offseason this year. They have to get some real playmakers on this team. Somebody that, that can come out like Carson Wentz and just throw up huge numbers and just dominate when they come into play. And I think that is when the Eagles can kind of turn around and kind of become themselves again during
This
the Super Bowl season.
Mark my words. You heard it here first. Nick Foles will either be traded.
Yeah, definitely.
The Bengals or the Jaguars. Both of those teams
need a new quarterback.
See, I disagree with you on the Bengals part. They have Andy Dalton. Obviously, you're just telling me he's on the IR, but Andy Dalton has been one of the more consistent quarterbacks over the past couple of years.
Okay, but Andy Dalton, hold on. Andy Dalton is consistent, but he's consistently bad or mediocre.
Yeah, he's
quarterback
ever to play.
I'd rather have a mediocre quarterback than like Bortles.
Well, hold on. There's a reason why it's called daytime Dalton. He cannot play in the playoffs. He is not capable of that level. He has AJ Green on his team. He has had Geno Atkins, and this man cannot pull off a playoff win. This is not a good quarterback if he can't play off
exactly.
Pull off a playoff win.
Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP. He can play under the lights. Is the thing here. Andy Dalton cannot. Super Bowl MVP coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
That right there should just be proof enough for any team that needs a quarterback. If any team has a chance to take the Super Bowl MVP, who isn't that old, I'm pretty sure he's only about 30 years old. I feel like
here's the thing with that, Deitch. Here's the thing with that. Had Nick Foles been the starter from day one, would they have gotten that far?
I would say yes, because the Eagles last year had such a talented team. Maybe they wouldn't have had the same record. I feel like they would have lost one or two more games, but I feel like they still would have made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Nick Foles, just the level that he played at, it was like contagious. He played good game after good game. Even in the Super Bowl, when you would think a backup quarterback
would collapse.
That's been inconsistent his entire career, to come off and win the Super Bowl MVP and have a shootout against possibly the greatest quarterback of all time is just insane.
All right.
I wouldn't say possibly. I would say that Brady is the GOAT, but that's a conversation for another time.
All right.
Let's move to the Dallas Cowboys. We already talked about them a lot, so let's keep this kind of short because we still have our game picks to do. But I think the Cowboys are for sure the best equipped team to win the NFC East. I think they can make a deep playoff run if they play at the same level they have been playing for in the last 4 games. What do you guys think?
I mean, they started off as, to put it lightly, garbage. They couldn't perform nearly as well as they had in recent years. But now they are kind of pulling it together and just putting out the performance that they need to do in order to make a playoff run. Now, this kind of goes into the topic of if they don't make this playoff run, if they don't win the East, does Jason Garrett get fired or does he still stay around?
Mhm.
I think that he should get fired, but frankly, I don't know if Jerry has the balls to do it.
Yeah, honestly, those are probably shriveled. But Jason Garrett really is not the greatest coach. I mean, he's kind of a bad coach. I mean, he is constantly starting off with good teams or good quarterbacks. I mean, Tony Romo may have been injured a lot, but he was a decent player. But every time they make it to the playoffs, they just can't get past this first stage of playing. They collapse as soon as the pressure's put on them.
Exactly.
See, thing is,
Two
like,
years ago, 2 years ago, I mean, you have the 1 seed. They made it to the NFC Championship. Obviously, they didn't play that well in that game, but that was, with a rookie quarterback and a rookie runner. I think that, like, this year, Zeke and Dak, in my opinion, are twice as good as they were in their rookie seasons. I think they are getting better. I think they
Austin,
will.
so you're
continue
telling
to-
me that it's tied. 2 minutes left, 3 timeouts left, 17-17. You're telling me that you would trust Dak Prescott to lead that team to get them to the Super Bowl. You're telling me that you
if he
trust
is
Dak
playing the
Prescott.
way he has played in the last 4 games, then yes.
But
He has
we
been
all know he won't though. He has showed that before that he will have these flashes and then he'll go back to being mediocre.
He's like Ryan Fitzpatrick. He
But
has good game.
But
And then-
do you have a large enough sample size to say that? He's been in the league for 2.5 years, and he's he had a great rookie season. He suffered from the sophomore slump big time, but he's gotten back on track in the last couple of games, and I think that as long as he doesn't slow down and he keeps on just pushing forward the way he has in the last 4 games, then yes, he is. I would trust him in a late game scenario against one of the better defenses in the league, so like the Bears or something.
All right,
see,
let's wrap.
he's so inconsistent. I mean, first rookie season looking great. Second season, I mean, just dropped off, and then in the beginning of the season, he was not looking good. Like, and only now is he picking it up. What are you gonna say? Like, how is he not gonna drop off again? Like, how do you know that's not gonna happen again?
See, no one knows that, but I have confidence because he's never had an elite level target like Amari Cooper. He had Dez for his first 2 seasons, but that was Dez is kind of like slowing down now, starting to get older. He's like 30 some years old now. He's probably like late 20s, early 30s when Dak was a rookie, and that's old for a receiver.
Mhm.
Like now he has this 24-year-old receiver, one of the best route runners in the NFL right now, who can definitely he's definitely brought Dak's passing game up exponentially.
Well, the only problem with Dak Prescott, and we're gonna wrap this up. Dak Prescott, he is inconsistent. He looks like Fitzpatrick. He has these great weeks, and then he has these terrible weeks. And
Granted, Fitzpatrick
he's
didn't just get a top receiver in the league.
Yeah, but I mean,
Hold on.
Wait.
Fitzpatrick, Adam Humphries, Deshaun Jackson, and Mike Evans. If not the best, the second best receiving core in the NFL right there.
I mean,
all right, that's a conversation for another time, but I completely disagree with you. There are several teams with other receiving cores, such as the Vikings and the Steelers.
now the Cowboys, they could win the division, but I don't see them going deep in the playoffs. Again, they still need to kind of put everything back together again after their last year's kind of cold year. But out of all the teams in the NFC East, I say the Cowboys win.
And Deitch, I didn't say Fitzpatrick didn't have. I said Fitzpatrick didn't just get. Like, look at Dak's passing game from the season, before getting Amari Cooper to after. It's night and day.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Right,
who do you think's going to win the East?
Cowboys.
I think it's the Cowboys by far.
Cowboys by far. Cowboys.
All right, guys, let's move on to our game picks.
All right.
Yeah, so this will be our last section, pretty much of every single episode. We're just gonna end off with game picks. If not, we'll probably finish off with some other news if it's kind of the end of the season and it's not really that important.
All right. So we're going to do this quickly because, well, I mean, we've used a lot of your time already. So
Alright,
Chicago versus New York. New York at home. I personally say Chicago wins. Though they may be away, the Bears are on a 5-game winning streak, and New York is obviously, as we discussed earlier, hot garbage.
Yeah.
Chicago all the way.
That's pretty much a popular opinion. I mean, Chicago taking home the
They're
W.
gonna take
Y'all can
Their
agree.
defense has been red hot. I mean,
they're gonna take advantage of the inexperience of the Giants. They're gonna kill them. All right, we have Arizona at Green Bay. What do you guys think?
Green Bay.
All
I
day.
know Green Bay hasn't been playing at their top performance this year, but it's at Lambeau Field. Arizona's constantly playing in a dome stadium, and they're already pretty bad. And
Arizona is playing like a pile of crap that my dog just made. Like
they are 2-9.
They're 2-9.
I mean,
they stink. Rodgers is just gonna blow them up, blow up their defense. Definitely. Indy at Jacksonville.
I say Indy wins because even though they're away, Jacksonville is on a 7-game losing streak. They were 3-1 before they started losing every game. Jacksonville has become the biggest disappointment in the league. Everyone was so excited about Jacksonville last year, and now they are complete garbage. And Indy, they may not be a great team. 6-5, that's average. They're on a 5-game winning streak, and I mean Andrew Luck, though he may have some competition in Jalen Ramsey, that he can take advantage of this collapsing Jacksonville team.
But the Colts offense is playing on another level right now. Luck has been consistently playing great. Marlon Mack has been running the ball tremendously. T.Y. Hilton's been picking it up. They do have a very tough defense, but they are going up against a very tough defense. But they have a pretty tough one of their own. And frankly, Bortles sucks very much. He sucks.
Well, didn't he get benched?
He sucks very big.
Yeah, for Cody Kessler.
He did.
Yeah, and he's garbage too. So
let's move on to our next game here. We have Cleveland at Houston. I feel like Houston will win this one. John Watson reminds me a lot of Michael Vick, and Michael Vick, obviously, a very talented quarterback, and I feel like with their receiving
besides the dogfighting.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna go with the upset. I'm gonna take the Browns.
Well,
I agree.
The Browns have been red hot. The Texans are a good team, but this new offense under Kitchens and led by Greg Williams, the Baker has been showing flashes of greatness, and so is Nick Chubb. And I just think that the Browns can edge this one out.
Well,
probably not by much.
The Texans
It'll
are
be very close and competitive
I think they're
game.
starting to cool down. They just came up. They're coming off of a short week. They played Monday against the Titans. They played hard that game. I think they're tired. I'm gonna say Browns in 7.
Well, the only problem is for me is the Browns may be a good team based on the last few weeks. But first of all, I haven't seen enough of the Browns to get a complete judgment on this. And second of all, Houston's on an 8-game win streak and they're at home. Now, I understand Houston may not have the biggest fan base in the world, but the Browns are, in past history, they've been pretty bad away. And though they may have won in Cincy last week, I just don't see them putting together the game they need. They could win a few games, but I don't say it's this one. All right, next game. Carolina at Tampa Bay.
Carolina all the way. Tampa Bay has nothing going for them right now. They're not going to make the playoffs. Carolina has a chance. Carolina knows they have a chance. And I feel like Cam Newton will go back to the MVP caliber player we saw him. I feel like he will go back into that within the next season here. And Tampa Bay is a perfect game to do that.
Yeah, well,
listen. Tampa Bay has been cold. They know they've been cold. They want to get back at their rivals for beating them earlier this season. They want to see their rivals suffer. That said, Carolina's going to kill them.
Carolina, they're on a cold streak right now. They've lost 3 games, and I'm a Carolina fan, and they're away. But I still see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a pushover. They may have looked like the best team in the NFL at the beginning of the season, but now they are looking like complete garbage. And I understand that the teams that Carolina's lost to, like the Lions, haven't been top caliber teams. But really, Carolina is going to pull it together here. Ron Rivera is probably going to make less risky play calling. They don't want to collapse late season. They are still looking at a possible wild card spot. And I just see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the perfect spot to rebound their losing streak.
Yep. So next up, we have the Bills at the Dolphins. And, I mean, I got the Dolphins. These are two not so good teams. But the Bills, coming off of a win, looked good. But I'm not sure they can kind of bring it all together to take a win.
The Dolphins are a slightly less steaming pile of shit. I think that the Dolphins will win. I do think it's gonna be a close game, and I do think I will enjoy watching this one.
Well, I mean, Miami is okay. I mean, they're 5-6, which, considering the fact that the Packers are 4-6-1, isn't bad. But I mean, the Dolphins are on a 2-game loss streak, while the Bills are on a winning streak. But I still think Miami has the influence at home, and they still have the better record, and they've just been performing a bit better. I still say they win, regardless of their losing and winning.
I do feel like the Bills are much better when Josh Allen is under center, but I don't feel like Josh Allen can carry them in his rookie season.
That's pretty much the truth. So next up, Denver at Cincinnati. I mean, I got Denver. Cincinnati's just looked so bad.
They participated in No-Win November.
Yeah, and especially with Andy Dalton coming off of an injury, it's not going to be the best. I mean, if the Broncos give the ball to Phillip Lindsay a little bit more, kind of get that run game going even more, I definitely think the Broncos.
Listen, everyone's going to be focusing on Cincinnati. Oh, they suck. Oh, their quarterback's hurt.
Well, because you said Dalton was one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
I said he was consistent.
That's still not true.
Consistently bad.
Exactly. I said it was consistent. Anyways, look at Denver. They're coming off of a great win against the Steelers. They snapped a 7 or 8 game win streak. I think that Denver is starting to clean up their act. I do think it's too late for them to make a playoff run. But I do think that they can, start playing these last couple of games for their pride.
Yeah, I feel like Bradley Chubb and Von Miller will lead this team, and I feel like opposite to what you said, I feel like they possibly still can make a playoff run. It all really, to me, just depends on what happens in the Kareem Hunt situation, and pretty much.
Well, I say that Denver wins. I mean, they're away, but they're on a 2-game win streak, and Cincinnati has the same record. But they have lost 3 games in a row. They have lost any momentum they had at the beginning of the season. And, I mean, Dalton, we've always seen him very, very horribly. But he is just, every time he loses, is just losing confidence in himself. And already being a mediocre quarterback and then losing confidence in his team and himself, that's devastating for a team.
Yeah.
All right. Our next game, we have Baltimore at Atlanta.
Baltimore.
I have Baltimore winning this game. Their defense is playing very well. Lamar Jackson's playing very well. Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards, their option is one of the deadliest in the league, and I think that they will do very well going up against this very bad Atlanta defense.
Yeah, I feel like in the future, this Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards RPO game could be stronger than the Panthers is with McCaffrey and Cam Newton. I feel like Lamar Jackson.
Once they develop, yeah.
I feel like Lamar Jackson is like Cam Newton. Obviously, he just doesn't have. Cam Newton has a better physical trait. He's taller, bigger, but I feel like Lamar Jackson kind of has. He can throw a bit better than Cam can, and I feel like that could possibly allow them to open up their playbook more than they could with Flacco.
Yeah, well, I say Baltimore wins, mostly because, first of all, I've made this a point a lot, but they're on a win streak, 2 games. They have a 6-5 record. They're decent. I wouldn't say they're great, but Atlanta has been garbage. I mean, they're 4-7. They lost to the Browns. I mean, that's kind of like a punch in the face right there. I mean, the Browns are doing okay right now, but you see that a young, inexperienced team like the Browns beats a team with some of the best players in the league, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, and it just kind of shows that the Falcons are not putting up the performance they need to beat a team like Baltimore.
And I'm just going to cut this off for a second. We just got breaking news a couple of minutes ago that the NFL placed Kareem Hunt on commissioner's exempt list. So
What? Hold on.
that just happened a couple minutes ago.
Okay.
Really?
Let's look into this real quick.
That's the latest news.
What's his name? What's the Chiefs CEO and owner and stuff? Anyways, this guy says he believes that Kareem Hunt will not be suspended, despite the NFL's policy of you hit it and you're out for 6 weeks. 6 games, I should say. I think that Kareem Hunt should be suspended for what he did, but I do think that they need to go through the court process, and I do believe that if he does get suspended, he will appeal it.
All right. It says that this means that it takes him off the field, and going forward, he cannot play for now. So more likely than not, this means he will probably be going to trial. That's basically what it is. Based on the way it was worded, I thought that the commissioner was giving him an exception, but I expected that from Roger Goodell, but I guess that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go.
I feel like these next two we don't even need to talk about. Rams at Detroit and Kansas City at Oakland. Do we really even need to talk about those?
Yeah, that's true.
LA wins, KC wins. It's pretty
There's
clear.
no debate on that. Now,
I know we're kind of not shining the spotlight on how great they are, but I mean,
the injury to Kerryon Johnson and with Oakland's general John Grudenness, but
yeah, and Kareem Hunt may be not playing for KC, but that doesn't take away Kelsey and Mahomes and everyone they have on their offense.
Going up against John Gruden.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we can head up and wrap up this episode with college football.
We're missing a few matchups.
I mean, pretty much self-explanatory.
I mean, we have the Chargers against Pittsburgh. I really think that will be a good game.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got the Chargers winning that one, but
I do as well. I think that coming off against that loss against Denver, the Pack or not the Pack. Why did I say Packers? The Steelers are going to be a lot slower. I think that they definitely got kind of hit in the face with that game. I think that the Chargers are going to win.
Yep. That's pretty much. All right, let's go to CF or college football because the rest of the matchups are of lower teams and we're kind of taking a lot of time here.
So we got actually this game has started as of right now. We have 17 Utah versus 11 Washington. I have Washington winning. I think Washington coming off of that win against Washington State, they will easily take care of Utah.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Austin there.
Yeah, the Huskies
no competition.
Have just been playing well, and I think they're just going to take the Pac-12 championship home. So next up, we have the Big Ten championship, Northwestern taking on Ohio State. Now,
I already say Ohio State. I don't really have to explain this. They're a good team. Their defense can be inconsistent, but their offense can steamroll a team like
Northwestern. Consistent.
I think that Ohio State will win, but I actually have reasons other than that they're a good team. They dominated the number 1 defense in the country last week. They also, yes, they lost to Purdue. That's what everyone's saying. Oh, they lost to Purdue. But, I mean, they also beat Michigan, which I think should mean more than that. Shouldn't beating a good team mean more than losing to a pretty decent, or not decent. I'm just going to say it. They're a crappy team, but still. And they did get blown out, but that doesn't change my prediction. Ohio State will beat Northwestern, especially if they're playing like they did against their rivals.
Well,
I see this.
Their defense is the only thing that concerns me with this matchup. Is Northwestern? I mean, they're still ranked. It's not like something like Purdue or some other crappy team. Like I mean, Pittsburgh is in the games here, but the defense is the only thing that might kill the Buckeyes, but I still think that they can shut down Northwestern with their powerful offense.
I still have the Buckeyes winning, but I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. You've seen Ohio State struggle against these smaller teams, Minnesota and Maryland, and especially Purdue. So I do think Northwestern does kind of have a chance to kind of put themselves in the spotlight, but I don't think they're good enough for the win.
Now we are going to move on to number 14 Texas against number 5 Oklahoma. This is the Big 12 championship game. I am really looking forward to watching this one tomorrow. I feel like I feel like they're both really good teams. Two great quarterbacks in Kyler Murray and Ellinger. But call me crazy, I have Texas coming out on top.
I have Oklahoma.
I got Oklahoma.
I do have Oklahoma.
Kyler Murray, super red hot, has been playing some of his best football. The same thing with Ohio State and Oklahoma. Their defenses are what has been killing them, but just the offense of Oklahoma, they're averaging 50 points a game, pretty much I think over 200 or 300 yards a game. They are a very heavy offense that could pretty much just beat and knock out a team super quick. Texas did win the Red River rivalry by a field goal, so that could be taken into account, but I still think that the Sooners are going to take it home.
Well, the Big 12 is part of
Texas did win, but that it's not just the field goal part. Yes, it was a close game, but that also has a mental effect. The Oklahoma is going to be nervous coming into this game, knowing that they couldn't beat them earlier in the season. I think that those nerves are going to end up being what kills the Sooners. I think that Texas will win this game.
See, I disagree. I think Oklahoma, this rivalry between the Longhorns and the Sooners is just so deep that Oklahoma has a vengeance. They're just going to come out and they're going to want to slap the Longhorns.
I'm looking at Oklahoma and Texas, and they're part of the Big 12, which is pretty much the division that's known for, at this point, offensive games. All their games are high scoring. All of them rely on the offense. And personally, I mean, Oklahoma's defense is bad compared to some of the other defenses that are in the ranks. I mean, honestly, I think Oklahoma will come up on top because they've just got the better offense.
All right, I think we can move on to the SEC championship now. Number 1, Alabama, taking on number 4, Georgia.
Alabama all the way.
Tide. Yeah.
Alabama is Alabama is the best college football franchise of all time. They have remained on top for such a long time, and I cannot see Georgia bringing them down. Although Georgia's the number 4 seed, Alabama is just too good.
I mean,
I have 2 words for you. Tua Tagovailoa. He is one of the best, if not the best, quarterbacks in college football. I think that he can very well. I think he will take this game by storm. I say Alabama. I do think it's going to be a close game. There's so many good college football games going to be on tomorrow, but I definitely think that it's Alabama. I don't think it's close.
I mean, personally, I chose Georgia, and that's for one reason. They're both really good teams, but we've seen how Alabama can collapse in certain situations. Like, I believe it was 5 years ago on this day that Auburn returned a field goal for a touchdown and ended up winning the national championship. Now, I know this isn't the national championship.
That was the
SEC
rivalry game.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I messed that up.
And Auburn was also the number 2 ranked school. Auburn was
but
very good that season.
Yeah, they are very good. But obviously, Georgia is also good if they are in the top 4. And I mean, I hate Alabama. That might play into this a bit. I just don't like them because they're constantly on top. But I think Georgia has the capability of winning this game. And honestly, I just have to go with Georgia.
All right, so we can wrap it up with the ACC championship. There's pretty much no debate here. It's number 2, Clemson.
It's obviously
unranked
Pittsburgh is going to win this one.
I mean, the Panthers are a good team. They're decent. But when you're going up against one of the most...
Dabo, Sweeney, and Clemson.
When you're going up against one of the most insane offenses in college football, I really just don't see it as a match. So...
Obviously, Pittsburgh's going to win.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, this is sarcasm for those of you who can't understand it.
All right, so...
We're sorry for those of you in our huge Pittsburgh market at this point with our 4 Instagram followers.
That all include ourselves.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Followers. Anyways, speaking of Instagram, you should definitely go follow us. 4th.and.a.mile. You guys should definitely follow us.
All right, let's finish up with the NBA matchups, and
we will put that in the description also.
Actually, you're cutting the NBA matchups for time. We will for you NBA fans, we will definitely do those next week.
Yeah, our next episode we'll put a focus on the NBA. But
we did do some this episode, but we definitely did do it as well because we got so in depth with some of these topics
well,
and
football
off topic
right now
that
is a huge topic.
I mean, the NBA is still a topic, but the only problem is football's kind of nearing
Football's
the point
getting
where
towards
it's a
the end of the
competition.
season. Football's getting huge, more competitive. All right. So, thank you for all of you who watched it. We are looking forward to seeing all 9 of you guys back here next week.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, but pretty much, thank you so much, for checking in, and hopefully you'll stay along. And if you have any questions or topics that you want us maybe to talk about, you can shoot us an email or send us a DM on Instagram,
Or in the comments.
Or in the comments. Yeah, we'd be happy to talk some topics that people want to actually listen to.
All right. I applaud all of y'all who stayed around long enough to listen to this part because we've probably already put half of you guys to sleep, half of the 9 people.
This was very long. So our next couple episodes are not going to be this long.
We're going to try and cut it down. We may divide. It might be a good idea to divide the NFL and the NBA into 2 separate episodes, but we'll look into it more. For those of you who watch.
All right. Love all of you guys. Good night. I am signing off.
All right. See you guys too.
All right. See ya.
See you guys next time.
Bye.